Hello there, welcome to Showcase. The Cannes Film Festival has often been criticized for choosing only a few women's films for its prestigious competition selection. And so far, only 2 female directors have received the top honor. But this year, there are 6 films directed by female filmmakers on the list, and this is a record in the event's history. Just recently, the 76th Cannes Film Festival director Thierry Frémaux announced the lineup for this year's edition of the major cinema showcase.
I've seen things.
19 films will vie for the festival's top prize, Palme d'Or, of which 6 are directed by women.
This has never happened before. That doesn't mean, of course, that if their film is in the competition, it is because they are female directors. So I have as much pleasure, or in any case, commitment to say that when there are female directors, it is thanks to their films. And when there are more male directors, it is because it did not happen. So it's not a selection criteria.
Women directors in the competition include France's Catherine Breillat with Last Summer, Austrian Jessica Hausner with Club Zero, and Tunisian Kader Ben-Hania with 4 Daughters. Also in competition, Italian director Alicia Rohrwacher with her Tuscany set drama, La Chimera. French filmmaker Justine Triet with the thriller Anatomy of a Fall. And Senegalese-French director Ramada Toulay Sy, whose debut feature Banel and Adama will premiere at this year's edition. Next month's festival is also packed with previous award winners, including Turkish director Nuri Bilge Ceylan.
There are a few Palme d'Or: Nanni Moretti, Nuri Bilge Ceylan, Wim Wenders, whose film is a sort of comeback, both very modest and very precious. There are a few Palme d'Or who will also come back to the competition's Palme d'Or race.
The Hollywood Reporter calls this year's selection an all-killer, no-filler program. Critics agree with that, as the festival has already secured some glitzy Hollywood premieres, such as the new Indiana Jones and Wes Anderson's Asteroid City.
Gazers and space cadets.
Well, although 6 female directors in competition is an all-time record for the festival, it's not yet certain if one of them will beat the other 13 male directors. And even if so, it seems gender parity still has a long way to go. 40 years ago, John Landis made Trading Places. It had a star-studded cast and became one of the highest-grossing films of the year. But in our movie almanac, Alican examines how beneath its sugarcoating, the movie actually alludes to a real-life commodity market speculation that led to serious crisis.
Sorry about that, man. It just help. I don't want your bag, man.
Trading Places features Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy at the brink of their major stardom.
I'm not a thief.
They respectively play an investor and an urban con artist, whose positions are reversed by crooked millionaires.
Pay up, Mortimer. I've won the bet.
Here, $1.
The two brothers owe their vast wealth to cheating in commodity speculation, and Aykroyd and Murphy are set to expose them for it.
We turned an honest, hard-working man into a violently deranged would-be killer.
This is the sports watch of the 80s. $6,955 retail.
In Philadelphia, it's worth $50.
That setup is told through director John Landis's classic Hollywood-inspired humor, which relies on slapstick as well as comedy of manners. And because a new crop of comedians are practicing that on screen here, the film serves as a bridge between old and new Hollywood.
How much for the gun?
Tell me just why you think the price of pork bellies is going down, William.
It's Christmas time. Everybody's uptight.
As for the story of the movie, that came from Silver Thursday. It was the trading day of March 27, 1980, when the price of silver collapsed drastically. What led to it was that the billionaire Hunt brothers were buying large amounts of silver, which kept increasing in price from 1979 until 1980.
Because they don't want to lose all their money, right? They out there panicking right now. I can feel it. They out there. They're panicking. Look at them.
He's right.
The brothers allegedly took hold of 1/3 of the entire global supply of privately owned silver. But partly due to the then new restrictions on silver trading, its value declined 50% in 1980. The brothers received a bailout package as well as an investigation. In the end, they went bankrupt and got banned from participating in commodities markets for attempting to corner the silver market.
Lost your mind?
But I seem to remember we estimated its value at $50,000 for the insurance company.
Trading places traded silver with orange juice for its story. The makers of the movie thought it would be funny because the public would be unaware that such items were traded.
You want me to break something else?
No.
Who are you?
I've caught him red-handed. Winthorpe, is that you? I'm making a citizen's arrest. This man is a drug dealer.
Critics loved that idea and compared the film to Preston Sturges's socially conscious productions from the 1930s and 1940s. Landis is a fan of both Sturges and that time period, and he says Trading Places is one of his few movies that, despite box office success, also went down well with the reviewers. And even after 40 years, its home economics intrigue aspect still keeps it fresh.
Winthrop, don't leave. We can explain.
Yeah. You'll be sorry. You'll all be very, very sorry.
Hong Kong's oldest neighborhoods used to be filled with tens of thousands of neon signs. Citing safety concerns, the city is now removing the lights, which many see as heritage. Here's more.
Colorful neon lights have been a symbol of Hong Kong for decades. They used to advertise everything from restaurants to jewelry shops. There weren't many regulations when the signs first came into use, but today most of them are taken down, and one conservationist is fighting to preserve at least some. Carden Chan is the general manager of Tetra Neon Exchange, or TNX, an organization that is working to collect the lights at an open-air storage yard.
Of course, I was hit by waves of emotions. Right? It was sad for me to see the signs need to actually be removed or come down. They could no longer be seen in its natural habitat, which is the streets, right, or attached to the original pre-war building. But I think as a consolation, at least we could actually give them a home instead of seeing them or witnessing them being trashed or being demolished or being destroyed completely in the scaffolding, which I witnessed before.
Chan talks to shop owners and tries to convince them to donate the lights to TNX when they can no longer keep them up on the buildings.
I would like them to stay in their natural habitat as long as possible. I always told them, don't donate them to us unless you really have to, because that's not... It makes me feel sad to see our streets being without them.
A sign on a pawn shop is TNX's latest acquisition. It depicts a bat clawing a coin and had to be taken down due to its size. The news of the removal quickly spread on social media, and many people showed up to see the sign off and record its final lights.
I'll be very sad to see the sign come down. It's a beautiful thing. It's very warm, welcoming colors. And it represents the long history my family has with Hong Kong and the culture and simply partnership with the people for prosperity.
Many say that these signs have been a part of Hong Kong's visual history, and Chan hopes to open a museum one day where they could remain on permanent display.
Katie Holmes is known as a pop culture icon thanks to her starring role in one of the most successful teen shows in television history, Dawson's Creek. But in recent years, Holmes has emerged as a director of independent feature films with a focus on society. And with our latest production, she turns the camera on trauma survivors.
I'm Anita.
I'm Diana.
How long have you been here for?
Too long.
In Rare Objects, a sexual crime survivor leaves a mental hospital and moves back to her mother's place in New York. She applies for a job at an antiques shop, and through the friendships she forms there, she eventually comes out from her shell.
Being able to tell a story.
This indie feature is an epic tale of recovery, and we see the long and difficult process sexual assault survivors go through.
Your father would be so proud of you. It's enough that you're proud of me, Mommy.
Director Katie Holmes says it was the layered nature of the original material that prompted her to make the picture.
The wounds of some hearts aren't always visible to the natural eye.
When I read the book a couple of years ago, I really loved the friendship between these two characters. And I also loved the theme of resilience and also the kintsugi technique, the metaphor of the broken teacup, and having it put back together with gold, and how you're more beautiful for having been broken. And I just felt like it was a nice message for women, and something that I felt was authentic to the female experience. Definitely the friendship part, for sure.
I'm gonna take some time off from school.
So many people would do anything to get an education.
Critics say with each film she directs, Holmes keeps growing as a filmmaker. Her Rare Objects cast agrees.
What happened to you?
She's, knows what she wants, but is very open to others' contributions. And we're just saying about how important it is that when you have a film set, people should feel valued and feel that they're contributing, and it's a part of the whole process. And she certainly made that.
With Rare Objects, Katie Holmes is praised for honestly tackling a serious topic in a gentle manner. Critics say she ably moves the narrative with a heartfelt tone. And that may mean Holmes now adds her name in the tradition of actors directing movies that go beyond their star brand.
It's been broken.
Inshad is a form of Islamic chanting in Egypt dominated by male singers, but now women are claiming it too, as they challenge traditional edicts banning them from singing.
Shaima El-Nubi is one of the rare female religious singers in Egypt who's been performing for 12 years. And during that period, she faced a lot of criticism, as she was told that the female voice is forbidden and that she's only looking for attention. But that didn't stop Nubi, since her fascination with the genre first showed up after listening to the Holy Quran radio. She knew this was her calling and never looked back.
I would always practice what was heard and said. I would imitate the sheiks, but I didn't know at the time what kind of art this was. Like any Egyptian family, my family sent me to memorize the Quran. So I used to memorize and recite the Quran as well as chants and the intros of religious series and sing them for the school broadcast until I became, thank God, a religious singer.
Nubi went on to expand her career by creating the Artistic Heritage Collection Association, which aims to protect Egypt's heritage. And this is the all-women singing troupe called Al Noor. Its founder is Neama Fatih. She became infatuated with a form of Islamic chanting known as Inshad after first hearing it at religious festivals as a kid. And by the age of 17, she also learned the art of Arabic music melodies known as maqamat and sought help from professionals from the Cairo Opera House.
I learned all about musical scales. I worked on myself. I trained with great sheikhs in the religious chanting field. I learned and benefited from them. When I found that women were underrepresented in this field, I wanted to do something that benefit them as well as the field, in a way that carries out the message that we want to deliver.
Fatih says now there's even a competition between the women and men in this field. And she's proud of her young band members who work tirelessly to improve their skills.
When my family hears me, I would be just sitting by myself and they tell me, recite. And when I do, all the neighbors gather and everyone becomes happy with me. The people who support me the most in this field are my mother, my father, and my uncle.
And for all these women, getting the support of men is a must, because they think it's an effective way to convince everyone that religious singing shouldn't be exclusive to one gender.
Egyptian women near pyramids of Giza weave hand-dyed yarn on wooden looms to produce luxurious, multicolored rugs with intricate designs. And it's all inspired by nature.
We don't ever repeat any pattern. Something needs to be different. Even if you asked me to make the exact same rug, I will not be able to. We do not like to do the exact same thing twice.
We paint off our imagination and the nature surrounding us. We don't sketch on paper. We just use our imagination and nature. We draw geese, ducks, and chickens and the scenes surrounding us in our homes, trees and palm trees, from the graceful nature of God.
Jake Gyllenhaal says he can never resist a good military story, and that's why he agreed to play in director Guy Ritchie's latest film, The Covenant.
John, you have tallies approaching.
The action thriller The Covenant is set in wartime Afghanistan. It centers on the relationship between US Sergeant John Kinley and local interpreter Ahmed, who both risk their lives to save one another.
The interpreter. Why you want this job?
I need the money.
Jake Gyllenhaal plays Kinley. The actor says since he played a Marine back in the beginning of his career, he's met many people from the military and learned a lot.
I think it changed my perspective on the world, just even being around and sort of touching that world just a bit. And since then I have, throughout my career, played people who are ex-military, people who had a history in that, and I've learned so much from that group. And there's so much pride and love the people that defend our freedom, that I am drawn to that story.
Gyllenhaal adds he's also drawn to characters in extreme circumstances because it brings out the humanity in people.
Actually, I'm here to interpret.
Because, my favorite line in the movie is, I'm not here to translate, I'm here to interpret. It's not about language, physical, verbal language. It's about another kind of language, a language that ultimately we all share in our humanity, when things get tough, I believe, not just Americans, but I think the world knows that we rely on the good in us, and that's what this movie's about.
You have tallies approaching.
He also praises director Guy Ritchie for his approach to the story.
It's a Guy Ritchie movie, so it has all the great stuff that we come to expect. But there's something about the way this type of relationship within war, it's never really been done in this way. And I think it's a very, very, very special relationship.
There wasn't enough for him to carry me across those mountains.
It's a story that combines a fair share of action with tension and is set for release on April 21st.
The National Museum of Denmark now has a unique collection on display. The artifacts are not any different from what can be found at an archaeological site, but the way they were found is quite unusual. Let's take a look.
All these gold coins, jewelry, and other artifacts were found by metal detectors. According to Danish law, any metals the detectorists find have to be handed over to museums in exchange for a finder's fee. But it takes more than a law to gather a collection like this.
It's a system based on trust, and it was because when the metal detector sort of came in the 80s, there were some very far-sighted museum people who said, we need to work with these people, we need to make sure that they are absorbed into the local museums, and so that we educate them and they become more interested in history and not in treasure hunting as such. That it's the knowledge that drives this interest.
It takes hours to find one single piece, but according to some, it's worth the thrill.
It was a rainy day, the weather was terrible, but I've only been walking on that field for like 20 minutes, and then I think it's my first signal, and I dig this up, and I could see that it was medieval times, and it was Jesus on the front of the ring, so I knew it was a nice find, I was extremely happy, and I walked for like 6 hours in rain after that without finding anything, but I was just really feeling happy.
Metal detectorists are aware that most of their finds are worthless. But recently, one got really lucky and found what is now considered one of the greatest gold treasures in Danish history.
Well, I didn't know what it was gold when we found the first couple of items. We had no idea. And actually, the only thing we knew it was not, that was gold. Because we knew that you hardly ever find gold as an amateur detector.
Archaeologists say the treasure had been buried for around 1,500 years. It weighs around 1 kilogram and includes medallions the size of saucers.
I felt mainly humbled, modest, because I didn't know anything about it. But I knew that, when it was that old, from 350. It was a feeling of being humbled, that you can be that lucky.
Metal detectorists explore a layer of soil that is mostly threatened by farming.
We would not have known about it. If it had been plowed over several times, it would have been in fragments. And instead, we now have a chance to see it actually in our exhibition, so that it is something that we can all be proud of.
Museum officials hope the exhibition will inspire others to pick up detectors and contribute to the finds. In this way, ordinary people can help preserve history, which makes this collection even more valuable.
That's it for this episode of Showcase. I'm Esra Dürüst from me and the whole team here in Istanbul. Thanks for watching and bye for now.